Turn the noisy air filter off. So you can actually hear me. Would be nice. Get that in there. See, put all the bells and whistles on. And hopefully things will work. Looking good. That's up and running. And we're off. Alright. Just have to do, let's turn that off. A couple of things we can do today. The urge to finally piece together some Space Marines. It would be something I can work on. I've got this base that needs to be worked on. We did that last stream, and since then it's gotten some wash on the middle bits. And I'm going to move this camera down a little closer so that it's not a mile away. There you go. Got the metal bits. Cat's trying to get downstairs because it knows I'm on the stream, so it's like I must interrupt the owner. So crystals need to be finished. Other than that, it's pretty much done and ready for the model that is barely started. That's something that can be done. I do have had the urge to do some Marines, and so I have this box of Assault Intercessors that I think I got, when did I get this? A few months ago. It's been sitting on the shelf. I think I got it for my birthday. Maybe work on that, since I haven't assembled any Marines in a long time. I haven't done these, a set of these outside of the Indomitus box. I think those were kind of push to fit, and these ones are not. So kind of like doing a new kit, even though they're still Space Marines, and if you've put together one Space Marine, you've pretty much put them all together, more or less. So we'll do that. Maybe we'll hit these crystals with green and be productive and get something done in the next hour before I have to go back to being a parent here. My shirt looks orange on the stream, but it's red. It's got the space logo from the Lego guy. Good times. Good times. Right, let's move this thing. Use the big brush because I don't need it to be fine. Like here, and since it's kind of a glow, I don't have to worry about being messy on the edges. That's the look we're going for, kind of a glowy green crystal. Mostly painless here. And I'm definitely painting it on thick because it's a technical, and you want it to kind of pool. And it actually makes it look much more natural than just a flat green color. ended up doing the base first. But, you know, sometimes you just get in the mood to do bases. Basing stuff. It's fun. Right now the printer is printing off a gigantic Jinx statue just to see if it'll work. We'll paint that up someday. It's like printing stuff off that I won't get around to painting for months. That will match with the kind of scheme I've got going on for the Robot Legion. They're using these crystals to power their guns. So it all makes sense. I promise. I need to shave. Get woolly again. Can't make it all the way through November and not shave. I'm gonna shave twice and still look like I've gone out for weeks and weeks. Alright, I still didn't finish these guys. I know I was supposed to get them done. I got partially done. But, I got distracted. Okay. Just not something that should be surprising to anyone who knows anything about me. Alright, so that base is going to dry. It's pretty much done. I may go over the edges and with a yellow to make them brighter, but ultimately that base is done. So put that to the side for now. Make some room for a new project, because I finished 2 projects last night. I finished the Robot Legion unit and finished the 5 Ghost Bear Battle Mechs. So if you finish 2 projects, you got to start a new one, right? So we'll just deftly and quickly dive in here and pretend that there isn't a giant wraith that needs to be painted and is being currently ignored because of reasons. You know, it's been a while since I've done a 40k figure. When was the last time I did a 40k figure? Like an actual Games Workshop figure. I think it was the Tech Marine. So that's more than a month ago, at least maybe 2 months ago. So we'll see how it goes here. So these assault intercessors are the ones that are designed for wanting close combat. And lots of chain swords and items like that. So if you wanted a close combat option and you didn't want Reavers, because Reavers, unless my information's out of date, Reavers are not that great. These might be worth looking into. I want to do that guy with the grenades, because that's just 10 types of awesome. We're going into battle. What do you bring in? I've got my chainsword. I got my hammer there. What are you going to bring? I'm bringing the bandolier of grenades. That's going to be my thing. And I think I have I have my upgrade sprue for salamanders, so I think it's been such a long time since I did any salamanders for my son's army that he's going to get some salamanders. So we will do that, and he'll be a happy camper. We'll put that there, so it's just in view of the camera. People who might wander by would know what we're working on. Salamanders upgrade sprue there. We've got our instructions. We've got the transfer sprue if you were doing them in Ultramarines, which that'll never happen. So that'll just go onto the shelf of unused things. So looks like we got the sprues here. Looks like 2 identical sprues. Yep. You can assault Intercessors. So it's just, these instructions are probably going to be saying just do everything 2 times. You'll end up with Marines that are copies. You've got 32 mil bases, that's a whole different project in and of itself. Instructions here. Oh, what a shock. 2, 2, 2, 2. Do everything twice. 2, 2, 2, 2. And 2. Yep, so it looks like you get copies. Now, that's... The stances will be a copy, but then you can give the different weapon loadouts, and that'll be how you differentiate. Prevent clones from showing up in the ranks. So definitely go for the number 3 here with the bandolier of grenades. I'll never understand why they put the backpack on. Like, I typically don't do sub-assemblies except for backpacks on Space Marines, just because they make the job attaching them and then trying to paint them with the backpack on is just insanely frustrating. So those get done separately. Otherwise, I paint the whole Marine, even the ones that have the gun across the center. These ones won't, because none of them have the 2-handed weapon. So I already like them because then I don't have to do the whole across the body thing. Alright, so let's make one. Why not? Sprue cutters. Been so long. What is going on here? Hook. Anyone need a hook? Alright, handy dandy sprue cutters. I think these were like $4. Yeah, they don't spring for the really fancy ones. It's not that kind of channel. Alright, so these are high numbers, so let's be looking at low numbers. Low numbers. We need a 1 and a 2. Here's 1. So since we're doing this twice, we might as well do both of them. So we'll cut from both sprues and we'll build both twins at the same time. All twins at the same time. 1, 2, 3, and 4. Strangest song stuck in my head. Alright, so that's one of them. I'm so glad the backpacks aren't tied to the model. That would be annoying. Alright, so that's the other one. Alright, so again, 1 and 2, and 3 and 4. Hope my Hobby Vices gift arrives at the recipient's house today. I'm going to be increasingly worried that it somehow got lost. should have been there on Monday. We'll see. We shall see. So those of you who are new to the channel, super glue apparently just does not work in this region. So I have to use Quickset for everything. Every single time I need to use super glue, I have to use Quickset. It's crazy. Hey Andre, Mantic Games Workshop. I had the urge to make a Space Marine. It comes up every once in a while. So I had the box of Assault Intercessors sitting on the shelf for months. So I figured I would break it out, get it done, make my son some more salamanders. It'll be mostly harmless. I just need a break from the Robot Legion stuff and everything else. It's all good. Mostly harmless. So adding that Quickset just adds one little step to every gluing job. It's a little annoying, but not too bad once you get used to it. At least these legs are logical. Fit. What does that leg look like it doesn't fit? Oh, it's because I'm dumb. That's why. I cut off the wrong. I cut off the wrong leg? Yes, I did. That's why that doesn't fit. Oh, silly. Like, why doesn't this leg fit? Okay. Bot. Well, I'm gonna have to put this aside. We'll put this in put that in the tray. We'll mark the tray 10. It's 10. Where's my marker? Mark 10 on it. Hate it when I do that. Not good at reading the numbers. Following instructions, not burning things down. Suddenly end up a danger to the community. Joking. Get the legs on and we'll do the mold line thing. Anyone who's put together an Intercessor knows about the mold lines. The worst place to put a mold line right down the front of the leg. At least put them on the side. You could. It's so much easier to hide. Nope, yeah, right down the middle and right down the back. We'll let that one dry. We'll do the other one and then we'll mold line scrape. It's such a not fun activity that I don't want to wait until the very end, because then it's just like doing it 10 times. feels like more of a chore than just doing it in the moment. But what you got going on today? At least with 2 copies, you're not ever... You can do 1, you can do 2, and you're not too frustrated. You're really only doing this a different thing 5 times instead of 10. So I guess there's a bright side to having model clones. Though for the prices you're paying for models, there should be 10 unique models in a box, in a Games Workshop box, for going on like $60 or something. I don't know how much the Intercessors are costing these days, but for $60, all of those Intercessors should be unique sculpts, and you shouldn't just get 2 copies of the same sprue. But yeah, they're gonna do what they're gonna do. Some people buy them, so I guess they're just doing what they're gonna do. Do what you're gonna do. Eternal Dynasty should be done tomorrow morning. Awesome. That's exciting. And new stuff, always exciting as he starts another project here. I don't know if you were here for it when I was mentioning it. This is a reward for finishing 2 projects. So I finished 2 and get to start a new one. So I'm still making progress, right? For every 2 I finish, I can start a new one. I still have, those Gator Warriors, bunch of Robot Legion stuff, including killing characters, the big Robot Legion Wraith, and then I have a whole Salamander army. From Mantic Games for Kings of War. I still have this whole Salamander army that is primed and ready for paint and just gathering dust here on the floor. Yeah, so no shortage of projects. Which ones did I finish? I finished the 5 Ghost Bear mechs that we started earlier this week, and I finished 5 of the Robot Legion Warriors that have guns. So, kind of two of the smaller projects. How's it going, Steven? Staying out of trouble? We somehow ended up working on Space Marines today. So if you know me for very long, I really only do 2 chapters, either Salamanders or Space Wolves, and those are the 2 armies that my sons have. The older picked the Salamanders, and the younger one went with Space Wolves. I do have some Death Watch stuff, but not very much. Those are kind of like one-off projects, like the snipers that you're seeing on screen right now. Those are the Death Watch snipers that I did. As I stab myself. If you're not bleeding, you're not really modeling. So that's the legs. The legs are the worst. gonna get bad again until you do the arms. So I love this tool. I don't know where I got it, but I think it's just it's a woodworking tool, but it's a little less dangerous than using an X-Acto knife on mold lines. It gives you a pretty good control and almost no blood. So that's good. Mold lines on the front of the leg are just inexcusable. There's gotta be a better way to do legs for Space Marines. Hope that's not too loud when I blow on the... So maybe I'll do it that direction so it's not towards the microphone. Running up right down the middle of the leg on the front and the back. Not the greatest. Ideally have it on the sides, because then you can... Then it's not so bad. You're not usually looking at the side. Usually looking at the front. Alright, so we got our first two clones. Looking svelte. Alright, so those first two times. 2 down, 8 to go, right? Alright, 7 and 8. There's 7, there's 8. No workmen today. Which is kind of annoying, but they swear up and down they're in the shop working on the cabinet doors. We'll see. I suspect they're probably at their other job site. That's just being a negative Nancy. Almost 2. Alright, legs. 9 and 10. Well, I already got a 10. There you go. 9, there's another 10. Everyone's favorite game, find the leg on the sprue. 9, 9. Yeah, they usually do a pretty good job of hiding the mold lines, but just the intercessor legs are just notorious. It's just one of those things. I don't know if they can find a better way or not, but having that, let's see if the camera can focus on it. Having that mold line go right down the middle of the leg in the front and the back is just painful. Just painful. They usually do a good job, and especially in some of the newer sculpts, they're pretty good about it. I'm going to find somebody else in the area that does modeling, and I'm going to ask, hey, does super glue work for you, or am I just cursed? And then every bottle of super glue I purchase does not work unless you use activator. Because maybe I'm just going crazy, but it seems odd to me that just wouldn't work. ones just cost a little bit more. Spend your $6 on Instaset. Hobbytown. I actually worked at Hobbytown for 4 weeks as a teenager. It was an experience. It was really nice. The owner was really nice for a while, until one day I got called into the owner's office, and she said someone called and complained that you were rude to them on the phone, which is way outside my character, especially at the time. I was pretty mortified by the idea that I would have somehow been rude to somebody. But she insisted, swore up and down it was me, and so I had the choice to either, well, it wasn't really much of a choice. She wanted me to sign a letter stating that I had done this, that I had been rude on the phone, and that I was going to work to not be rude anymore on the phone. Just this kind of absurd thing, when in retrospect, to be forced to sign a letter of guilt over something that I was reasonably sure that it wasn't me. So I didn't sign it, and I just quit instead. And that was the end of my tenure at Hobbytown. I'm not going to confess to something I didn't do. It's not my thing. That's alright. I ended up moving, getting a job over at Toys R Us instead. It was a longer drive. My buddy who already worked there said, "Hey, it's awesome. You'll like working there." So it's all right, fine. I'll give it a try. Who doesn't like Toys R Us? And ended up working there until I was done with college. Well, it worked out pretty well. The store director, his name was John. He was really nice. I would work kind of seasonally, summers, when I was in high school, summers and holidays. And he would always hire me back because I was one of the few people he could trust to actually work, instead of like stop working when the manager leaves the room. So he'd always hire me back, but every time the Toys R Us had a kind of a policy that if you leave and then you come back, then you get a little bit of a raise for returning, because they wanted people to return who have the skills. They don't want to train completely new people up from nothing. So every time I came back, even though it would be just a few months, he would implement that raise, and it got to the point where I was making as much as the lower managers were. I just kept getting that quarter raise every time I came back. I think I was making 9 something per hour, and that was a lot of money back in 2000, 99, 2000, 2001. $9 an hour wasn't too shabby. You got lots of overtime for Christmas. Like, you basically got to work as much as you want. And so there were guys that put in, they would just work from open to close, and make themselves quite a bit of money with overtime, just because there's so many people going into Toys R Us to buy Christmas toys. It's probably the store itself probably made most of its money in just those 2 months, November and December. I started out as a on the register, which almost everybody did, and that went well for about 3 days before Somebody noticed, hey, you're kind of a bulkier guy. You've got decent muscles. We could use you in the storeroom, and I was perfectly happy with doing that because I didn't like working on the register at all. So went back there, got trained working in the back, unloading trucks, stocking shelves, restocking shelves, and met some cool guys working back there, and eventually got trained in bike building. Well, Toys R Us used to have an on-site bike builder, and so I really just got to show up and build bikes all day, which was pretty awesome. And occasionally do other things because I'd be in the back, but like help carry heavy things outside, strapping swing sets on top of cars that were woeful too small to hold them. Yeah, good times. Oh, just lost the screen. Oh, that was interesting. Just lost my screen there for a sec. Yeah, hello. Oh, okay. But yeah, the policy was if the customer asked you to put it on their car, you put it on their car, and with the caveat that says we have no responsibility for this once you drive off the lot. And so we would get out the ropes and throw these swing sets on top of the car, and they would drive off, and sometimes it'd be on a wing and a prayer. Some of the guys did some questionable things to get things on a car. It was a pretty fun job. Paid for quite a few things in college, being able to buy books and stuff. Spending money. Finish off that SLDF Lance. That would be very good. YouTube is not happy with me right now, so you are not receiving enough video to maintain smooth streaming. Well, hopefully that's not true. Alright, 4 done, I think. Let's make sure those feet are good. Sometimes I forget about the toes. You get to painting and you're like, oh, hello, mold line. How are you? Alright, next one, 1314. I just got the Hobby Vices email saying keep your tracking info. Now I have to try to remember what I did with the tracking info for the gift they sent out. Hopefully it's somewhere around here, and hopefully the package arrives, because now I'm worried that the package won't arrive and then I don't have this shipping and tracking info. So maybe I will. Gosh. Alright, I'm trying not to worry about that. Don't be paranoid. 1314. Worst case scenario, I know the guy. I will message him on Instagram and send him some money for buy himself something. Legs 16, 15, 16. See, next job after Toys R Us. What did I do after Toys R Us? Briefly worked in a computer lab on campus when I lived in Montana. That was nice. That was where I kind of made the clear choice that I was going to go into teaching, because the computer lab I worked in was in the education building, and so seeing all the kids in there getting ready to be teachers, that inspired me to go that direction, because I thought I was going to be a business major, which would have been interesting, but decided, nope, you like history, let's do that. That's what you're passionate about. So went into that. So I did that for a year, and then after college, went to work at Nintendo as a contract employee, which is not a glamorous job. It's really you're working when they need you, and sometimes that can be pretty infrequently. And then when they do need you, you're in there working your tail off with pretty long hours, because usually it's on a product that's about to ship, and then you needed to do last minute testing, and so would frantically be playing the games trying to find any sort of dangerous last minute bugs that would prevent the product from shipping. Usually that wasn't the case, because typically the games that would come in were games that were pretty much near release anyway. Definitely not playing any like alphas or anything like that. So usually the company making the game would do that all themselves, and then they send it to Nintendo to do the last minute testing. So we'd work like 50-hour weeks and for a couple of weeks, and then ship off. And maybe you get a new contract, get called in, maybe not. Did that for a while, and then went off and did the teaching thing. First teaching job was an intervention class. Well, thanks, Annex. I appreciate that. I'll keep trying to do the good work. At least try to do work. I can't guarantee it's always all good work, but it's stuff is getting done, good or not. But I appreciate it. No, I'm not teaching anymore. So I taught that intervention class for a year, and it was an interesting experience, because they were pulling kids out of their electives to get intervention in math and reading and writing. Well, typically those kiddos who are not who need the intervention are not super big fans of being pulled out of their electives. And so right off the bat, the relationship is sabotaged. And they're walking through the door angry because they typically get pulled out of PE, a lot of these. And so right off the bat, it was a very angry group of kids. And so we did our best to try to show support and teach some valuable skills. But that year was a tough one. Next couple of years, did computer stuff, teaching intro programming, that kind of stuff. It was a lot of the early teaching years just because history teaching positions were few and far between. People tend to get them and then teach until they die. So while waiting for a position to open up somewhere, I kind of did whatever was open and ended up getting a math endorsement, taking some extra classes to get a secondary math endorsement so I could teach math. And that was actually ended up being a really good thing because a job opened up that was half social studies and half math. And so that was my foot in the door to teaching history, was teaching math. But that first year was awesome. And I think look back and that group of kids that I had that year, they were it wasn't official in the district, gifted and talented, but that was a cohort that all had that same higher level math 3 for that age group. So they were all together in one class, and then that meant that all their other classes were shared as well due to the way the school had set up their class system. So I got the same kids for math that I did for social studies, and so it was really awesome to be able to build those relationships in multiple contexts, math and social studies, and just that group of kids had really unique personalities and funny, and that group's actually kept in touch with me more than any other group I had since in the 14 years of teaching that I did. So definitely look back on that year. Good times. 14 years in, taught math and social studies for a while, and then eventually switched over to just social studies. And then my last year was last year. But with health concerns, I'll just be honest, my blood pressure is not great. So part of the reason why I'm doing this right now instead of rushing off to get another teaching job is I'm not sure I would do well health-wise. So I'm trying something new, trying to make this a thing, understanding that it's probably not going to happen, but it's better to try and then to say, oh, well, I could have done it. If I had chosen to do it, I could have made it happen. I didn't want to be that person who just never gives it a shot. So working on this and seeing if I can build this up into something and hit the light, because if you're playing that drinking game at home, I need to keep you hydrated. Yeah, the health stuff, and then we're moving across the state to a new house, which I've mentioned before in stream, but so couldn't stay at the same position, and really didn't feel good about the situation I was in over there. So needed a change, and so we made a change, and so I'm trying something new. And if it works, it works, and if it doesn't, then thankfully we're in kind of a okay position financially that I can give this a try. So I very appreciative of the hard work that my wife does to keep bills paid. But yeah, I'm gonna give this a little bit of time. If it doesn't work, then I'll go apply for a teaching job because they are plentiful out here, and I can teach pretty much everything. Being able to walk into an interview and say, I've got 14 years experience. I can teach math, social studies, intro to engineering. I can teach science. Pretty much you name it, I can teach it. Though I'm not a big fan of language arts, I wouldn't enjoy teaching that. But theoretically, you could do it. Just have to remember what an adverb is, right? It's just an additional verb, right? Yeah. I don't even know if they teach that anymore. We've given up on teaching kids how to write. I remember watching a show way back. I think it was called Digital Nation. It was a kind of documentary on how kids are moving into the digital world, and skills that were valuable, like being able to sit quietly and read a book, are just not taught and not valued anymore. And there's a professor on there that's talking about how kids used to write in papers. You would set them down, they write an essay, and 19 and 20, I can talk and think at the same time. How kids would write in essays. Well, that transitioned into writing paragraphs. So now kids write in paragraphs, and sometimes those paragraphs don't necessarily connect with each other. And so the professor would say, oh, well, the kiddos would lose points because they'd write two really awesome paragraphs, but they just wouldn't seem to connect to each other, just like independent things. But then as time passed beyond that, those paragraphs started to truncate into pieces as well. So you'd have this really good topic sentence, and then the rest of the paragraph would be about something else. And so now the sentences within the paragraph are no longer connected. Hoping that we're turning into kind of a post-literate society where we can't write in anything beyond a sentence or a social media post. 180 characters, right? See, maybe that's for the best. Who knows? It's like just looking at my own kids' reading behaviors. We have tons of books in the house, and I read a lot, and my wife reads a lot, but our kids are not as jazzed about reading as we are. They do read, but they don't really do it for fun. They prefer to play video games, or the older ones working on art stuff. We're kind of going family tradition of working on art. But I remember going, maybe this is because the internet didn't exist at the time, but going down to the library and coming home with a stack of books that we would read by the end of the week, and have to go back and get new books. Well, my older son is not reading books that quickly. It's just a different world in which we live. Not necessarily good or bad, we just don't know. We don't know the consequences of people who just don't read and don't. It's just not how they get their information. Get it through YouTube videos. Guess I shouldn't complain too much about that, right? Since that's what I'm trying to do. Part of the problem. Teaching history was awesome, and I wish I could do that till the day I croaked. But just the stresses of it. I mean, if it was just purely showing up and doing the teaching part of it and not having to deal with all of the bureaucracy and politics and that kind of stuff that kind of become a major part of that job, then I would be fine. Just show up and teach. That would be great. I taught world civs, so ancient civilizations, covered the whole planet, in kind of a mad dash around the globe before the end of the year. Tried to hit as many of the major ancient civilizations as possible, trying to give every continent its fair shake before the end of the year. And then 7th grade was first half of the year was medieval Europe. So kind of from fall of Western Rome to the Renaissance in half a year. So 4.5 months to get from Eastern Roman Empire all the way to the Renaissance was a race for sure, to try to get it all in, or to give everything its fair shake. It's really hard to do. And then the second half of the year was state history, so we covered all of that in the second half of the year. So your mom is a teacher as well. I've seen since I was a kid how demanding their job is. Teachers and nurses. Yeah, you have to have a passion for it. That's for sure. I've worked with a lot of teachers over the years, and teachers who are showing up for the paycheck, they don't tend to last very long. So you have to want to do it. It's not about the pay. I'm not one of those people who complains about teachers' paychecks. I mean, in many ways, it's a nice compensation and job security too. But it is a lot of work that doesn't show up in the contract. If you ask a teacher, "Do you work to your contract?" they'll look at you like you're crazy, because you couldn't do the job if you did exactly what your contract said and no more. You just wouldn't be able to do your job. So going above and beyond is expected, and I know a few nurses that's the same for them too. You're constantly being asked to go above and beyond, and the good teachers do it just on instinct. So a lot of respect for my former colleagues. I know a couple of them actually do subscribe to the channel. They're kind of helping me out. So occasionally they'll comment on a video. And so thank you again for helping me out so much over the years. If you do end up watching this video, by the end of this last year, we had pretty much the perfect social studies team. All very capable teachers, all very passionate about helping kids, all very knowledgeable on the content. So it was just a pleasure to work with them. It really was heartbreaking to have to leave. But we can't be afraid of change. When you hear a story about so-and-so who held the same job and did the same thing for 50 years before dying at their post, dying at their desk, it seems kind of sad to me, because everybody's got their great American novel in them. They just need to find their way to get it out there. I'd like to be able to say at the end of this that, hey, you know what, it worked or it didn't work. At least I tried. And with the writing and the video making and all of this stuff, at least I tried, right? I'm not measuring my success against others out there, but if I could do this and somehow be around for my kids and be a good dad and find a way to support their growth, then I will call that a victory. Because if I just stayed at my old position and got burnt out and had a heart attack, well, that doesn't really help my kids. It's kind of a sore subject because I take a lot of flack from some family members who have kind of outdated ideas about what it means to be a man, I guess, is the kind of stereotypical view. A guy goes to work. A guy takes care of his family. Well, if I'm dead, I can't take care of my family. Wow, this is super positive right now. That's good. It got a little dark. Anyway. Alright, what are we on now? I think we got 8 done. I got 2 left. Yeah, teaching. Teaching was awesome. I have all the respect in the world for a good teacher who cares about their kids, wants them to learn. Do I reserve the right to be annoyed with my son's teachers when they don't do the thing that they should be doing? Like my son would have been in my social studies class this year if we had stayed. He was in my class last year as a 6th grader, and I would have had him again as a 7th grader. I reserve the right to be annoyed with his current teacher because they whenever he does something differently than I would have done it. I made a big deal about the Eastern Roman Empire, and we do a whole thing with Justinian and Theodora and all that. So it was fun. Well, thanks for coming out, Stephen. Get some good rest. We'll see you around. Maybe these will be primed and yes. There was kind of mixed feelings about. There's no like rule against it, and it's not like frowned upon or anything. But knowing I would do the best job, I knew I wanted to be my kid's teacher, so I made the request, and you can actually. It's one of those perks of being a teacher to have your kids where you want them. So I basically got to handpick my son's schedule last year. Alright, got 2 last Marines. But he's an awesome kid and a good student, so I feel blessed. He's a good kid. I'll keep him. He's picking up on my he picked up on my dry sense of humor though, so that's kind of annoying. It's annoying when other people do it. It's only funny when I do it. was a weird year last year because we spent half the year remote. So he was quite literally upstairs in my class on Zoom, which seemed kind of silly. I told him that, hey, you could just like sit down here and be next to the computer. And no one would have to see you that you were in the same room with your teacher. But he's like, no, I'll just log into Zoom. And, can't teach her. I guess maybe there could be a question about like being fair in grading, but he, at least my son's he was such a good student that it wouldn't have been an issue, and since it's middle school anyway, it's not like it's high stakes or anything, and there's no grading curve. He ended up getting like a 98% in the class because he does everything and he's a good student. I did hear once of sometimes teachers' kids aren't the best students. There was one, I can't remember the year, but one where this kid ran roughshod through the building over the course of his 2 years there, because he got away with quite a bit with his mom being a teacher. I never had him though. I think probably for the best. Something about being like a teacher's kid or a kid of a cop. You end up being kind of a rebel. Though I haven't seen it in my own kids. Alright, those are the last two. We got 10 little armless, headless Space Marines here. He's almost with the... One more set of mold lines. The good classmates portion of that can't be understated. Having good peers to work with, and not being in the rough class full of kids that cause trouble. That can have a big impact on how much learning actually takes place in a public school classroom. At least over here in the U.S. So I had some classes over the years that were pretty rough, and we didn't get through as much as some of the other classes did, because to do so much classroom management and putting out fires all the time, that's impacts the learning. Last mold lines on the legs for a while here. Arms are a whole nother thing. So again, another little kind of thing I'm annoyed. That's a little annoying with at least the Primaris Space Marine models, is you're paying so much money for a box of Marines and have to do so much cleanup with them. It really shouldn't be this much work to clean up a box of Marines. Like, I wouldn't feel as bad about it if the box was more reasonably priced. Because I can buy... I could buy a whole Dead Zone box that has a little mini, a whole squad in it for $30. So half as much as this product and do less cleanup on it. Because the Mantic figures have resin, have lines too, but at least they're not anywhere near as much effort as the Space Marines. Again, not the best place for a mold line. Right down the middle of that armor piece. I forgot to do that on all the others, so I'm going to have to do that before we go here. Oh, that one doesn't have one on it. No, little one. Forgot about that one. It's a whole thing. Now I'm worrying where I put that slip. It might be in the car. Yeah, I think I might have left it in the car. Hopefully I left it in the car. For that Hobby Vices gift. Because I don't want it to not show up and then... I mean, if it doesn't show up, I'm going to be out the money anyway, but... it would be nice to be able to prove that, hey, yeah, I did actually send something and it got lost, and then I will send something else to make up for it. Or I'll check Instagram and the guy will have posted it today, and that would be even better. How many Patreons? Well, $60. So if we call, if I did 1 month of 6 different Patreons, that'd be more models than I could shake a stick at. Or it's 2 bottles of resin to print out a ton of figures. 2 bottles of resin, that's probably 100 figures of this scale, 28 millimeter, at least. All right. I think I'm gonna call it a day here. So I got to go and do some parenting stuff. So I will pile these guys up. A nice little pile of Space Marines there. There you go. Not a kitten pile, but not nearly as good as a kitten pile, but it is a thing. So we'll pack these up and we'll head on out. Appreciate you hanging out with me today, Andre. Anyone else who managed to come by. And we will see each other again. Check out the Battletech video I posted this morning. That was pretty cool. I actually put effort into it. And, you know, sometimes it seems like the more effort you put into something, the less attention it gets. So, all right, so I'll say adios and keep being awesome.